Now we're talking. Well, good morning and welcome to another Midday Mastery brought to you by the Realtors Real Estate School and the Professional Development Advisory Group at your Chicago Association of Realtors. My name is Chris Huizinga. I am the director of the Realtors Real Estate School and Professional Development for the association. And today we are going to be talking about all good things branding. And this session is entitled New Season, New Brand, Strategies for Growth and Visibility. And today's panel features the wonderful the talent that is that exists within the Chicago Association of Realtors membership, and honestly throughout the entire realtor world as well. And so we're very grateful to have not just everybody from our professional development advisory group, but also Skyler Lemons and Carl Ankrum. So a quick introduction here, and then I'll move into the antitrust statement. But Skyler is the down payment grant king as a real estate broker with Exit Strategy Realty. And he specializes in helping first-time and low to moderate income home buyers navigate the home buying process with minimal upfront costs. By leveraging down payment assistance, grants, and seller concessions, he has helped secure over $250,000 in financial assistance for buyers in 2024 alone. He was born and raised in Chicago and has a deep understanding of the city's 77 communities and a passion for making home ownership accessible. With a finance degree from Howard University and a background as a consultant for Fortune 500 companies, Skyler brings a data-driven, strategic approach to real estate. His expertise in branding, social media marketing, and predictive analytics has helped him grow an engaged audience of over 18,000, count it, 18,000 followers on Instagram, generating 1,700 plus leads in 2024. For Skyler, branding isn't just about visibility, it's about impact. Through his platform, he educates buyers, partners with lenders, and empowers real estate professionals nationwide to close more deals using down payment assistance strategies. Whether he's helping buyers secure the right financial resources or teaching agents how to build their brand online, his mission remains the same: to bridge the home ownership gap and make real estate more accessible for all. Also joining us is Carl Ankrum, and Carl has been in the media industry for over 25 years. His journey began with live sound, serving churches and conferences, and making sure every word and note was heard clearly. From there, he found his way into video production, capturing events, telling stories, and bringing moments to life through the lens. Photography joined the mix when a fellow creative asked for help with a prom shoot, and it quickly became yet another passion. This industry isn't always easy, but Carl is incredibly grateful to do what he loves every day. And over the years, one thing has remained true for him: there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more ways to grow. Also with us is Sherri Jordan. Sherri is the owner and award-winning designated managing broker of Suite 527 Realty Group in Bolingbrook, Illinois. She has 17 years of industry experience working with an array of clientele from first-time home buyers to seasoned investors. Hailing from the south side of Chicago, Sherri has built her real estate brokerage and team from the ground up, going from an independent contractor to the owner of her own brokerage. She is known for hosting training workshops for agents and business owners, as well as community outreach and local officials events. This is just part of the reason Suite 527 Realty Group was recognized and awarded the Best of Bolingbrook Business Award for Consumer Services in 2023. Sherri knows there is no single path to becoming an excellent leader within her community or industry, and this is why she's an avid volunteer with our local, state, and national realtor associations, including sitting as the current chair of our professional development advisory group. And joining her is Dinas Reed. Dinas is a real estate broker based in Chicago with a career spanning over a decade since 2011. He holds a position on the board of directors of the Chicago Association of Realtors, and he is vice chair of the Professional Development Advisory Group and also on the Affordable Housing Committee of Illinois Realtors, reflecting his commitment and leadership within the industry. Thank you all so very much for joining us today. And before we go ahead and begin, we must do our diligence. And so I will go ahead and read our antitrust statement before handing it over to our esteemed panel. So please be aware of the fact that those present today are in the real estate brokerage business, and many individuals are located in the same market areas. As a result, antitrust laws require that there be no discussion at this meeting concerning certain competitive business practices, such as the amount of fees, commissions, splits, salesperson compensation, or the boycotting of other real estate firms. The chair or assigned staff person will stop the discussion and or the meeting should the conversation move into these areas of potential antitrust violation. And with that, I will turn it over to our esteemed panel. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I am looking forward to speaking with our panelists. I think this is a topic that anyone old or new can benefit from, because you can always do some tweaks, or if you just start new, this will give you some foundation on how to start a brand. So I'm really excited to work with these panelists. So I'm going to start off with a question to all panelists. And then the question is, could you briefly share your journey into branding and what you believe the most significant shift in brand visibility strategies over the past year? And we can start with Ms. Sherri.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. I thought I went kind of fast.
Yes.
Could you briefly share your journey into branding and what you believe is the most significant shift in brand visibility strategies over the past year?
So my journey into branding is knowing, as coming from an agent, first realizing I am my own business first, regardless of what brokerage I'm with. I am my own business. So I had to make sure that I put my own visibility out there as Sherri Jordan and not just my brokerage. And when I, did that, my journey started with identifying my target audience and creating, a brand around that, which we would get and, do a deeper dive into during this session. The shift that I've seen as significant within this past year is, of course, the incorporation of AI. Whether you are, you know, you can change your outfits with AI. You can, spruce it up because we can do images with AI, and of course, help with the captions and different things like that to capture the audience that you are trying um, to, speak directly to. So a lot of people, I know they're a little bit timid with AI, but I think you just have to jump on that train because you're going to get left if you don't.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head as far as uh, being a individual or an independent business owner first, and create the identity, your branding around that. I know a lot of beginner agents, they will tend to kind of get under the brokerage brand and not really separate themselves as a independent contractor and create a
Mhm.
brand for your personal brand. So that is a good point. I'm going to shift over to Skyler and get your input on this question.
I think that I've always kind of been familiar with like brand identity and things of that nature. When I first got into business, though, I didn't really know who my target client was. So I think more of my branding initially was what I had envisioned of a realtor. It was like that navy blue color, and I didn't really have anything specific that I was offering to buyers or sellers. Just out here asking with a nice website, just asking for the business. I think that recently, I've realized that, um, well, I read this book, Book Yourself Solid, and they talked in there about giving something away. And I kind of developed this strategy, but essentially what I've realized is that branding should talk to one person. So all of my branding speaks to that buyer in Chicago that wants to buy, but may need down payment assistance. And I think that I think with all of the changes in the industry, I think it's more important now that agents do kind of niche down and kind of have a specific brand as opposed to the traditional, if you're looking to buy or sell, call me. I think that we kind of have to really take it a step further and speak to our client and what we think their pain point is.
Got you. So what I'm hearing you say is you can't be a generalist anymore. You should look into being a specialist and get good at one thing first and create
Absolutely.
your marketing around that.
Absolutely, because when I was first in the business, just talking to everybody, I feel like I had less people raising their hand. But I feel like when I got into the space of, okay, I'm speaking about down payment assistance, I'm probably speaking to, my target audience, which is like a millennial buyer, or maybe not. There are a lot of people who work everyday jobs here in Chicago that just don't have, $15,000 sitting aside to buy a house. And so really speaking to that person and their pain point is how I feel like have really developed a business as opposed to being out here trying to talk to everybody.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right, I'm going to shift over to Carl to get your input on this question.
Okay, so my my journey into branding is definitely was a tumultuous one in the sense of I probably have changed my names. I just counted while Skyler was talking. I've changed my name 4 times. I've changed the name of my brand 4 times, and it was because at the time of my business or just getting started, I was trying to shift and adapt to whatever that offering that I was doing. So it was very difficult for me to try to find my lane in the sense of what do I really want to offer. And because I do content creation and media production in general, my target audience ended up being just extremely wide in the sense of almost everybody needs media, almost everybody needs content, but I had to determine how I was going to create my brand or establish my brand to that specific area and say, hey, for you, we can take care of this. For you, we can take care of this. And for you, we can take care of that. All still under the housing of, media, whether it's photo, video, sound, or whatever it's going to be, or however you deliver your content. Now, so that's how my journey came to be. And even where I'm at now, the Media MD as my branding, I ended up developing that because my father, for my third name, which was Futurist Media, which I was trying to see into the future or whatever, I don't know. My father was like, Carl, that's a terrible name. I would never name my business Futurist Media. Where do you even get that from? I was like, okay, Dad, that was a little harsh, but okay, I'll accept that. And moved on and finally got to where I was with the Media MD. So that's kind of like how my journey kind of started or is even now. With respect to your answer, with respect to the brand visibility strategies over the past year, 100% with the AI. Sherri was right on. So many things are happening now that people are able to shift from hiring people and doing things to be able to do so much on their own. Now, there's always been the shift from, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there's always been a shift from people being able to, or having to hire someone to being able to, do things on their own, even with technology. I actually wrote a paper, 20 years ago, something like that, or however long ago it was in college, about how over the time, technology is going to erase people or erase certain positions. And obviously we see that happening with AI. But what I always tell people is, just like Sherri said, you got to get involved in it or you will get left behind. So even content creators, other photographers and videographers, when things really started hitting it, I would have conversations. Oh, Carl, we're gonna get raced out or whatever. I was like, no, just pivot and learn what you can do with it, and then go from there. So, like in general, with anybody creating content or anybody creating anything, is utilize the tools that are coming out each time, each year, each month, whatever, and adjust it to your business so you can stay relevant.
Got it. So you have different services, but you tailor them to the specific client because you understand what they need, and then you can provide that service, tailor it to their specific need.
Well, I try to. One of the things that I tell people in any client that I get, the first question that I ask every single client almost, if it seems like they've been in business for a while, when they come to me, I'm like, okay, who was doing your video before me? Who was doing your photography before me? Because I want to understand where they are in their business so I could even determine if I'm the right photographer. if I'm the right videographer, if I'm the right content strategist for them. Because once I figure out, if I figure out or determine that that's not the lane for me, then I honestly won't take the job, or I won't take the position where I was like, hey, you know what, you may need to find somebody else. So the tailoring is what's as important as possible, but to make sure I get the right fit. Because I'm not for everybody. I'm not.
Understood. It's good to know that up front instead of wasting a lot of time and figure it out later. So that's a good point. So as we go on and every day we hear about what's as far as branding goes and media, we know that what we hear a lot, that video is the most powerful medium to use when you're creating content. So I wanted to ask Skyler, because you've been having a lot of success using videos, mostly short form that I think short form videos has been working for you. So I wanted to ask, what makes videos such a powerful medium for brand visibility compared to other content formats? How can professionals, well, that's the first part, it's a two-part question. And then the second part is, how can professionals identify their most effective niche?
I think the video is more effective than other forms of content because humans, well, I don't know. I think that for a long time we've been advertised, like traditional, and I think that one video is new. So now you could kind of like be on your phone and be watching videos. Whereas, when Facebook first became a thing, or when all of these things first became a thing, it was kind of like emphasis on still post. So I think that one, the newness of it, but I think that I don't know. I think it's something in human nature that makes us like curious and makes us want to watch something like kind of from start to finish. And when you are creating content like a video, that's essentially what it is. Like, you want to wait and see what somebody's going to say at the end, or what they're going to give away, or what they're going to instruct you to do with their call to action. So I think that that's why video has been more effective. As far as professionals, I do think that there are multiple ways that we can go about doing video. So for me, I know that I'm not like I'm kind of like camera shy a little bit. So like I don't want to really be out there every day on the camera. So I prefer to just show people the properties. And I also find that people are very curious about like real estate and what things look like and what they cost. So I try to give them all of that information to attract them. There are different methods, like some agents that really love the camera, maybe they like more lifestyle type content, where it's really just them, like, they're more the focal point of their content. And, maybe they're giving like uh, some type of education along with that, but they're the focal point of their content. I find that when you are taking it and making it actually about like the house, I think that that makes it perform better because people are just naturally curious to see, what do houses in Chicago look like. It's kind of funny to me because like at some point I realized that people who are commenting on these videos, they're not like in Chicago. So they're always like, oh, this would be this in Texas, or this would be this in, Arkansas. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, but I would have to move to Arkansas to get it, So I think that it's really just the fact that it really puts somebody there. And we as humans are just kind of like naturally curious and nosy. And I think video content speaks to that. And another thing about video is that it does kind of give the person consuming it the option to, like whether they want to continue or not. Because when you're scrolling, if the first couple seconds of that video doesn't seem like you're going to be interested, you can just keep going. But if it does speak to you, then you can keep watching at your discretion.
Got you. And then as far as the niche goes, it's obvious what you chose your lane as being a down payment king. When you look at other professionals and see, when they may not have identified a niche, but what do you see that, professionals can do to kind of hone in on a specific niche for themselves as a brand?
Got you. So I think, well, I've answered this question like specifically for realtors, but I guess it would be the same across the board. People have to look at their history of business and see exactly what have you been doing, right? So when I looked at my book of business, I realized that, okay, I've worked with sellers, but I've also worked with a ton of buyers. And when I was working with buyers, this was their pain point. This was the main thing that kept coming up. They were 25 and they didn't have, they would buy, but they got the job, they got the credit score, they don't have the down payment. I think that when you're in business, you got to look back at your. I, I was talking to one of my friends the other day. She's in the hair business, but she sells products online. I'm like, let's look at the analytics and see what do you sell the most of. I feel like whatever you sell the most of, that kind of is what you should make your niche around because you've had the most experience with that. You probably can really speak to that type of business, a lot. And I don't know. I think that once you do that, you kind of become the expert in that specific field. So like down payment assistance has existed for a long time. I know that my mom bought her first property in the 90s with an IDA loan. So this is not new stuff. I think that a lot of times, and this is a thing in real estate, we have like our real estate jargon amongst us, and we don't really realize how does this translate and what is this really saying to the consumer. So I think that once you kind of uncover that, like your niche probably is already amongst you. It's probably how you talk to the consumer. You probably didn't realize that as your niche. So now you kind of have to approach that more strategically, but it's probably already like, you probably already know exactly what it is. You probably already have worked a lot. Like if we ask Carl, what's the bulk of your media business? I'm pretty sure there's one type of client that he services more than any other type of client. You know what I'm saying?
Got you. That makes a lot of sense. So the other side of content creation is other than video, you have more of the actual brand look. So you have logos, you have colors that you need to decide on. Just the look as a brand. So I want to throw this over to Sherri, and I want to ask you, how do visual elements like colors, logos, and overall aesthetics contribute to a brand's memorability and sustainability in today's crowded market?
I think the colors, the aesthetic, that is number one, that behind your target audience, once you identify it, that is the second most important. Because hypothetically, your target audience is seniors. If you are uh if you've identified seniors as your target market, you probably don't want to, not probably, you won't want your colors to be yellow. You won't want your font to be a tiny cursive, things like that. I know most of us, when we hit 40, now we have readers, or we need bifocals or what have you. I had to get LASIK when I turned 40. So that would not have worked if my target audience was seniors. If you're looking for a luxury market, you probably shouldn't be going toward bold colors. More luxury, you see the more simplistic, the more minimalist colors that you have. So that's like your just basic black and white, or one or the other. And then you may have, more of a block, but a thinner block, if you will. But if you're going towards like the millennials, like Skyler is, then you may want a little funky color, a little more depth into your instead of just bold and block, you may want to have a little, like his logo is perfect because it got a little bit of cursive, but not too much, right? And then, it has the icon on the top, and that is speaking to his audience. So it's very important. And I do not think that a lot of people put too much thought into that, which I would love to see more, especially when you are working on your brand, because um most of the time when I speak to my agents and I ask, you try to help them with their brand, the first thing they want to come to me with is, my favorite color is purple. My favorite color is blue. Well, if your favorite color is purple, but you are looking, your target audience is maybe the blue collar, worker, purple may not be, too appeal to them. as much. As Skylar mentioned, you want to catch them like in the first 30 seconds. The colors that you have on, whether it's a still photo, whether your logo or what have you, it actually helps capture people in the first 30 seconds, believe it or not. So those are things that you want to look at, and to also make um your brand timeless. If you are looking for, even I'm gonna go back to Skylar again, for example. Although he's going for millennials, he has like it's not, his logo is not bright. It's still, it's like a balance in the middle. So I can see that as something that will carry longevity. I can see him, still being able to use his same colors 5 years from now. That's what I also looked at with Sweet 527 and a green. When I was thinking about my colors and things, well, I'll be honest, mine is my birthstone because 527 is my birth date. But it did, actually end up tying into what I wanted when I was thinking about 5 years ahead. I'm thinking about community. I'm thinking about growth. I'm thinking about luxury. I'm thinking about money and legacy. And those all tied into the green. So it just kind of balanced out with my birthstone anyway.
I think it worked out well. I think you
Thank
put
you.
it together, and then every time you see Sherri, I think just about every time she's going to have some green on, so
Oh,
some
yeah.
kind of green, and her logo. So we have the ideas as far as content. We talked about video, we talked about static, we talked about logos and branding. Now, the practitioner wants to go out and actually create content. And sometimes they think that they need to go out and they need to buy this, $1,000 camera. They need everything, this whole setup before they even get started doing the content creation. And that, I believe, tends to have people not do it because they feel like they need all of these expensive tools and this grand setup to start creating content. So I want to ask Carl, many professionals do feel like they need these expensive equipments to create quality brand content. Could you dispel this myth and explain how everyday tools can be leveraged effectively?
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So the main thing I tell people when you're considering content creation is, where is it going? Where is it going? If you're not capturing something for, network television or even cable network television or something like that, cell phones are like just absolutely amazing. So like right now, I've got one phone there that's recording me. Then I have another phone here. Can't see my finger. Another phone here that's recording me, because the technology has been here for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years or whatever, within these little devices that can capture you. So the cell phone, the real estate on the cell phone is what, about that big? I don't know. Let's say what, 5 inches by 3 inches or whatever, 4 inches, depending upon your device. So when you're looking at a device that small, you typically don't need to have a huge resolution or a huge, big 4K DSLR, which, like for example, the cameras that I have, they all start at like $2,000 based upon what it is. And that's just the body. It's not lenses, it's not anything else. But you're able to get so much with these cell phones, again, based upon where you're going. Now, if you're trying to do some stuff on YouTube, then okay, you might want to, invest in something a little more, but you still can do so much more with these cell phones. The concept is, and this is my opinion, well, my opinion, but it's also true because it works. It's also about your lighting. If you got the sun, which everybody has access to the sun, you got the best light source, period. You can spend $0 on the sun. Wherever you're living or wherever you're working at, there is gonna be a window somewhere there. That's your light source. $0 on the light. Audio, if you're able to just have in a relatively quiet space, obviously you're not going to do it next to a laundromat, or if you're in where you have big air conditioning or heating ventilations that are always going off, as long as you're able to take those basic things into consideration, you are going to be able to create some amazing content with just your cell phone. Now, One caveat to that is not necessarily thinking you can get the cheapest cell phone, to do that. You may want to have to invest a little bit in the cell phone, but here's the other thing. That $1,000, that $1,200, whatever, I am 100% an Apple guy. I'm Apple all day. I know Samsung, I know Google phone, they have some good devices as well, but I honestly can't speak to very many of those. When clients come to me and they have those phones, I work with them on it, but I don't have all the insight to that, to be quite honest. That's just a reality. Sorry, but so I digress. But when it comes down to just generating content, you have to really determine what you're going to be using it for. If it's strictly for Instagram and Facebook, and maybe with TikTok, your cell phone is going to be fine. You 100% do not have to spend $3,000 to $5,000 to get some content. There is so much you can do with these cell phones. Oh, you know what? And let's think about this. Maybe 10 years ago was the first time on network television, on the news, 2, 5, or 7, I was watching it, and they had this horrible cell phone footage, but they were using it for whatever reason, and it became acceptable across all these channels or across all these networks to utilize cell phone content for the news. When I saw that, I was like, oh, they didn't open up a whole lot of stuff now, because eventually they knew the content was going to be able to be created, be able to be used with these cell phones, and it was only going to get better with technology.
That makes a lot of sense, because now I'm pretty sure they rely on a lot of cell phone footage that was taken real time at whatever event that they're reporting on.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about just using your cell phone that you got, and I guess if you were trying to go into photography or as a business, then you would invest, but
Yes.
just to create content, we can do what you said and use what we have every day in our hand.
You're using it every day. If you're going to spend the money, you spend the money on that device that you can do so many things with, and you'll be fine.
Gotcha. So now we want to we create the content, we're putting out content, and we start to get a little bit of activity on the content that we put out. So I want to ask Skyler, since you do a lot of content, a lot of video content, can you walk us through a client success story where one of your videos transformed a lead into a client? And the second part of that question is, what specific strategy made them convert?
Okay, I think that so like I'm making content basically at this point on a daily basis. So basically all of my clients come from social media. When I'm out with them, I'm like, how'd you find me? They say, oh, I saw you on TikTok, or I saw you on Instagram, or a combination of the both. So I think that with consistency, it's not really like an anomaly for me. That's pretty much the norm. Like, that's how I get my clients on Instagram. But a success story that I've had last year I was working on a deal. Um, a mom called me. She had 3 adult kids. They wanted to buy a property. So when we were talking, we found out she wouldn't be able to go with the initial lender that I had put her with, because I forget the reason, but when we switched them, I think like the Sun score might have been like a couple points off. When we switched them, we ended up having to put the 18-year-old daughter on a loan as well. And when we got to the closing table, she was real stressed. She was upset that we had to switch lenders. She was upset that the lenders, the underwriting process was strenuous. But when we got to the closing table, she only brought like $542 to the closing table. And they moved into their new house. She had just called me a few weeks ago because she got the tax bill. And she was like, I thought you said that the tax bill was going to be paid with the mortgage. And I'm like, it is going to be paid out of the escrow account. But that was just an opportunity for us to talk and for me to check in with her. Another instance, I had a client, and she told me that she had been trying to buy a house. She had wanted to do this for 40 years. She had never done it. I took her to the lender. She didn't have like traditional credit. So she don't have like credit cards and stuff like that. So the lender actually had to do a manual underwrite for her. And while she was going through the manual underwrite process, that took like 3 weeks, but she was calling me every day, like, Skyler, where's my pre-approval? Where's my pre-approval? So we finally got her the pre-approval. Um, and because they had to call like Rent-A-Center and like some other places. So if you have a client that does not have a traditional credit score, and maybe they, follow Dave Ramsey principles and don't really use credit, they still can buy. It's a way for lenders to do the manual underwrite. It just takes a little bit longer. But when we went out, I showed her 3 houses. We had 3 houses scheduled. The very first house we went into, she said, "This is it." I was like, "Well, let's go look at the other ones just to be sure." The second house we went to, she didn't really even want to get out the car. Like, her daughter made her get out the car. And then the third house we went to, me and her daughter went in and we just FaceTimed her. And she was like, "Yeah, I want the first house." So she ended up closing on that house. We ended up finding out that she owed, I guess, like some state taxes before we got to the closing table, but the attorney and the lender figured that out, and she was gonna get like $1,500 back at closing, but instead she got nothing back at closing, but she got keys and she got um, her tax bill paid at the time of close. So just those different things like that, just to see how she went from spending 40 years thinking that she couldn't buy a house to actually being able to buy a house and then not really needing a whole lot of money down to buy the house. And she and I still talk regularly as well. So I think that, I've kind of really done well creating this community of people in Chicago who, that was a success story. So now if she meets anybody who's looking to buy, she's obviously gonna refer them to me. Um, so I think that the social media has really changed my business a lot.
Absolutely. You create raving fans for yourself, but it just being able to match them up with the resources that can be the solution for a non-traditional situation, or nothing we do is a straight line. Everything is different. So just being able to match them up is a good solution, a good strategy for your branding in that scenario. So I appreciate that. So now we're going from a video to actually creating the brand look itself. We spoke on it earlier. Sherri spoke on it a little earlier about the use of colors and lettering, and size, fonts, and things like that. And who are you really aiming the look of your brand to? So I want to circle back to Sherri and ask her, how did you develop a cohesive brand identity that remains flexible enough to evolve as your business grows?
That's a great question. So that is because I started out thinking about the future instead of the now. And I did that just as I did in my business of real estate. So when thinking about that, I decided, just as I do in my business, what do I want to leave behind versus where am I going to? What do I want to be remembered as when I'm not doing this anymore? So again, I went back to my birthright on that. And when I was thinking about the colors and things like that, I think about the different brands that have been around since we were children, the things that we grew up on that we see now today that we're introducing to our kids, and not much has changed. So I went into it with the process of how can I recreate that type of blueprint. So I tried to kind of stay as basic as possible. And when I was incorporating my logo, I know I'm doing houses, and regardless of what area of real estate that I'm in, I started actually as a first-time homeowner at the age of 28, even before I got my license. But then I was an agent, then turned broker, then turned managing broker to brokerage owner. When I look as far as changing my brand over the years, what I've mostly changed was the color of my brand. But even the S that is in Suite 527, that originated because when I was with when I was still an agent with another brokerage, I still had that S, but that S was for Sherry. And so when I did Suite 527, but my original color was red because I loved red. But my target audience when I came in the market was investors. I started in this industry in 2008, as we know, was the most tumultuous, time to get into real estate. And in order to sustain in the business, you had to learn how to work with investors. Red was something that attracted the investors, but when I wanted to establish Sherri as a brand within my brokerage, that's where the S came from. And I knew that, and at the top of my S, you have it looks like a house. And that's the way it is shaped. You all can go to Sherri C. Jordan RE on Instagram, Facebook, or any other platform, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about when you look at my logo. So when I went from an agent to then a brokerage, and the brokerage was Suite 527, I just brought my S over. I still have that house and that logo. Now I am a brokerage owner and not just an agent, but I'm still in real estate. So it was able to carry over with me. And then when again, well, as I said, is my birthstone, but my birth certain color, but it's something that is timeless. So I really feel that the green, when that was the first thought, and I was like, yeah, I can stick with that. Because even as I get older, even if my target audience change, I think that the green can shift whatever direction I go in. So that is something, else to think of. And even the font, I wanted something that can relate to where I am now. But again, as I get older, it can something that's still appeasing on the eyes. So back to my original statement, when you are thinking of what your brand is today, don't just think about what it is today. I start off with thinking about, what do I want to leave behind? And that way you are immediately going to look at the future. So, I don't have to keep changing as much. I may have to just shift like one thing, or this may be able to just continue with me until I'm done.
Makes sense. Begin with the end in mind.
Yes,
Gotcha.
perfect.
Makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because we have to talk about AI, and there's the evolution of it is seems like is a new platform launching every other month, or at least to me it does. So I know we're using like the Chat GPTs and the picture one. I can't think of it offhand. I can't think of it offhand.
Midjourney.
Midjourney, yes, that's the one. Midjourney, incorporating those into our marketing. And what I wanted to do is ask Carl how these tools can enhance content creation without losing the human touch that connects with audiences.
Okay, so let's go let's start with ChatGPT, because that was like the most popular that just blew up, right? I love ChatGPT, use it all the time. The bio that you actually read, I showed it to my wife yesterday, and she was like, "It's good, but it ain't quite right." So she said, "Throw it into ChatGPT." So I threw it into ChatGPT. I don't even know. You know what? All I said was, I put the text in there and I said, "Make this better." That's all I said. Make this better. And it made it more relaxed. It made it more whatever. And I was like, okay, done deal. Let her see it. Let her see it again. And she looked at it and said, "Okay, that's good." So I sent it over. But so often what I've seen is people taking ChatGPT, and when it generates something, even if it is completely different from that person's personality or that person's style, and I dare say that person's intelligence, they still put it out there. And you're reading something like, "I know they didn't write this. no, they didn't write this. But it is what it is. It's either they didn't write it because it's speaking with eloquent, suppositious, whatever words that Look, I'd have to look up with the dictionary or whatever. But so it's either that or it's so cookie cutter. I got an email from a beauty industry. I'll just leave it at that. I got an email from a beauty industry. Hey, we're looking for some content people. We want to hire you to do yada, yada, yada. Got your name from so-and-so, so-and-so. And when I read it, it was so cookie cutter. I mean, literally, they just popped in my name, popped in my business name, and that was it. So I replied, okay, yada, 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 whatever. When I got the reply back was more cookie cutter than the original email. So that ends up being the issue that I can see as that people aren't necessarily utilizing to make it still feel more comfortable. Not that they're just using AI and AI only. We can talk about video and photography. So what I typically will do in any of the content that I produce, I will try to use a little element of AI just to make it a little cooler. Just to make it a little, oh, wow, that was kind of interesting. Now let's get back to whatever the content is. Because, even as Skyler was saying earlier, Skyler in conjunction with Sherri was saying, to grab someone's, information for those first few seconds, grab their attention, that's something that I can use AI to do that. And then I just keep into my regular body, because you never know what's going to grab them to stop the scroll and then really listen to you. So once you've got their attention, okay, then you can see if they're really interested in hearing what you have to say. So I think utilizing it as just little enhancements and not completely using it for everything that you're doing per se, I think that's the way to make it so that it's still familiar, it's still you, but you have a little bit of an enhancement just to grab the people and to help you get to that little extra step of the way.
It makes a lot of sense. You don't want to over leverage the platform, just kind of use a little bit of it to help as a crutch.
Right.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think we can talk about this branding all day. So I'm going to go into the last questions for the panelists. And the one thing I want to ask, I'll throw out to the panel, is what's the most inspiring brand transformation you've witnessed? And what lesson can our audience take from that example? We'll start with Sherri.
One that immediately comes to mind is McDonald's. That's something, again, that we all grew up on. And our parents probably did too. I don't know how long they've been around. I just remember having those birthday parties in the playground or what have you. But it transformed. But I don't care where you are in the country. If there's a McDonald's, all you look at as the golden arch is those the red, the arches, and you instantly know it's McDonald's. I think the only thing that really changed over the years, I think when I was young, it was the arches, and then it actually had McDonald's written out in a lower part of the arches. And now it's just the arches. But I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you are in the world. If you see that M, you automatically know it's McDonald's.
Gotcha. I agree. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to ask a different question. I'm going to ask a different question to Carl. And that question is, looking ahead to the next 12 months, what brand visibility, trend, or strategy should everyone in this room be paying attention to?
So when Sherri had sent the questions, and I was looking over, reviewing what I was going to say, that question. So brand transformation, and I'll be honest, I pay attention to, but I don't. I don't necessarily realize it's a transformation until I reflected back on something else, or someone really pointed it out to me, so to speak. So I honestly, like even what McDonald's, like she just said, I was like, you know what, that's right. I wouldn't necessarily thought about that. I saw a post on Facebook that someone put an old picture of Pizza Hut. And Pizza Hut was a nice family place. And I remember going to Pizza Hut. I would go in there, we'd sit down, you had a nice little booth, and a waiter came up, and it was very nice aesthetic. Now, I haven't been in a Pizza Hut probably since then, so I don't even know what it looks like right now. But someone had put, don't forget what they stole from us. And they were talking about Pizza Hut, because it used to be one thing and another. But one thing that I will say in general, as far as brand transformations, or as far as any type of transformation in general, one of the most inspiring type of things that I've seen is brands making the shift and understanding what's more convenient or what's more applicable to a generation at that specific time. Last night, my wife and I went out to eat. I had to do a walkthrough with someone, and they pushed the time back. So, hey, let's just go get something to eat. And on the table, there was a little QR code that said you could pay your bill. So I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. I can pay with Apple Pay. Someone paid me from Apple Pay, so I did that. And I told Yolanda, I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. You can do that. And she brought up, she said, COVID. COVID shifted so many things that all these brands had to then adjust to what was going on in the world to determine how are they going to stay. I don't want to say stay alive, but because that's the other interesting thing. Quick side note: everybody has different understandings of what profitability is. One company may need to make $100,000 a month. Another company may only need to make 50. But if there's one company that doesn't make 100,000, hey, we ain't doing enough. I'm like, $100,000 a month? What? But everybody's got different degrees of what that is. So even if someone is looking at how someone else shifted their brand to adjust, to pivot for AI, or pivot for still people who were still wearing masks, because there's still issues with COVID-19 and other stuff, obviously. But to see how a brand or a company will shift to make something convenient for the customer and make something easier for the customer, because like for my own personal taste, I still love the little Walmart deliveries, or going into a store and pick up something because I ordered it from an app, because it's a little easier. Now, do you sometimes lose that personal connection? You do, but it ends up being a trade-off. But then here's the other thing on the flip side of that. Those brands didn't do that just because they love us. They did it because they needed to keep their money up. They did it because they needed to keep their profitability. So I think sometimes as we think about a brand transformation or how we need to adjust, even for myself, one of my main transformations that I had to do within my business was start making cell phone content a lot easier for my clients to utilize me for. Even though they had their own cell phones, they could capture content, they didn't necessarily know about how to do angles or how to take care of lighting or how to position things a certain way to get that still good content. So I was able to lower the cost for my clients and still deliver a really good content just by using my cell phone. So that's how I see like a good brand, how brands have transformed themselves, and different things that we need to kind of pay attention to and adjust and utilize for ourselves.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That made a whole lot of sense. And the last question will be for Skyler. And that question is, what parting advice would you give someone who's feeling overwhelmed with all of the branding choices available today?
I would say like, you just take it like one step at a time. I feel like, this brand, like even if you think about Down Payment Grand King, like I didn't just get there. It was like a whole transition of me being like I said, like a general agent. Are you looking to buy or sell? To me getting comfortable with speaking to one person on the internet, and then understanding that some people think that comes with a trade-off. Like some people are like, I don't want to just talk to one person, because if I just talk to buyers, then none of the sellers are going to want to work with me. So just understanding that you should like take it small, and do implement things one by one. I did like a lot of what Carl and Sherry said, and wanted to piggyback on that, because like when I think of like a brand that really made a transformation, I think of Stanley, and how they were really like they became like they really were for like workers, right? And now it's like a stylish cup for everybody, like, you know, thanks to TikTok. And I think that one of the skills of a brand and just of a good business is capitalizing on, you know, a marketing moment. So if you get, I think for Stanley, what changed it all was that that girl car caught on fire and the cup was still there. So it was like, you know, making sure that we capitalizing on these different marketing moments and making sure we got everything in place so that when something happens, we can capitalize. Um, you know, QR codes became a big thing during COVID, and now QR codes are like really back. But QR codes have been a thing. They have been a thing and they had died because people that like, I feel like humans just didn't see the need for them yet. But once COVID came and nobody want to touch anything and you know what I'm saying, stuff like that, now QR codes are here with us for forever. So just, you know, understanding like sometimes you might put something out there and that might not necessarily be the best time for your brand. And, you know, something may occur later that, you know, makes it kind of pop off. Like for me right now, when I'm saying this, I'm thinking like a lot of people feel like, you know, our current country's leadership might have taken away a lot of these programs. So a good marketing tactic for me would be to say, you know, these funds aren't impacted by what's going on in the world. And if you're still trying to buy a house, I still know how to help you get money. So it's just making sure that you're in the right place at the right time to capitalize off of a marketing moment.
Got it. Appreciate that. I know we up against time, but I do want to hear the parting words from the last two panelists. So, Carl, can you give us some parting advice on parting advice on what you would tell someone who feels overwhelmed by all of the branding options available to them today?
So what I would say is, when you're thinking about what you need to do for your brand, literally just determine what's going to be best for you. There's branding that you can use for, you know, you can hire graphic designers for this. There's Canva. Someone had put in the chat how you know, big Canva is now. So being able to determine with all these options, experiment with them all. When I first started doing video, when I started doing photography, I spent too much money going through all these different options. And heck, I'm doing it now for AI. I got about 5 active subscriptions right now to determine what one or two I'm going to keep. No, I got more than 5. I got like, who knows? I won't share how many I got. I got too many. But anyway, I need to be, you know, tailoring them down. So what I tell people with all these options, whether it's Canva, CapCut, well, ChatGPT is really like a solid one now. You know, any other options for AI stuff, do the trial on them. Now, what I also tell people is use a credit card that you can lock in case you forget. You need to cancel that subscription. You know, do something so you don't keep charged. But I tell people, do as many trial subscriptions as you can, and then determine what's going to work for you. And then once you find that for your specific brand, your specific niche, you just drop off the rest and just keep to what you got. Because there's going to be stuff coming out tomorrow, next week, and next week. So just find the ones that work for you and utilize those.
Awesome. Madam Chair, take us home.
I would say it's kind of piggying back off of what Carl is saying. I'm going to put it like to the social media platforms because a lot of people feel like I have to master them all, and you don't. Going back to what Carl said is find the one that works best for you and master that one. That is if like Skyler is, you know, doing the TikTok and the Instagram, but he is more, his target audience is millennials. If you are looking at a senior, it may not be social media. It may be print. They still like to get the mail. If you're kind of somewhere in between, then I get all the Gen X's, Z's, and Y's and mixed up. So I'm not gonna go there. But if you're kind of in between, then you want to see if it's Facebook or even more professionals, LinkedIn, right? So instead of overwhelming yourself, a lot of people say, I'm not a social media person. We need to be a social media person because you're a salesperson and you're into marketing. So just identify which platform works best for you, maybe even 2 to, you know, fall back on. and master that one. And that's where, you can flourish, you can thrive, and you can identify what works best for you. I will also, if you are picking one active like social media, I would back that up with my website and make sure that you're um, bouncing people either to your website or your email list to build that out. And if you have those two, one platform, your website and email list together, then I think that you can grow more than than trying to bog yourself down and getting overwhelmed with trying to be a master of all. Master of all is no such thing.
I agree. One who chased two rabbits catches none. So I think this was a good session. I actually learned a lot. Uh, Hearing from Carl, Skyler, and you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. And I'm going to turn it over to Lanzetta for closing us out.
Thank you so much for all this information, Skyler, Carl, and Madam Sherri. We're going to open it up for questions. I had written a few even before it started, and you all were hitting them on the head. So I had to keep digging and digging. So I'm going to open it up first to our group. Allison, Stephanie, do you all have any questions you would like to share? You can come off of mute.
I find that a lot of agents have a hard time just taking that first step because they feel so overwhelmed because they want to pick their colors and they want to pick their font and they want it to be perfect. So, what advice would you give that agent, whether it's a newly licensed agent or someone who's been experienced and they haven't really been branding yet, that feels completely overwhelmed? What step do they take first to begin this journey?
I can answer that. I would suggest using Canva. So if you go to Canva, they actually have a brand wheel. And what you can do, you can put in any color. If your favorite color is purple, if you put in purple, it'll actually give you the meaning of that color. So you can identify maybe what somebody will resonate with if they see that color. And it will also give you kind of your sub colors. As we know, like when we're doing our brand, we pick 2 to 3 colors to go with. It also give you colors that will complement that main color well. So you can play around with that. I think you can even do it on the free version, but I will also tell you, as far as subscription goes, Canva is one subscription that I think I still owe them money every month for all the things that I could do with Canva. So that's, if you're going to have one subscription, Canva should be one when it comes to your brand. And but yes, it's a branding wheel embedded directly into Canva. You can play with it, put in different colors and even fonts. You can go down and you can play around with different fonts, and that way you can determine what works best, the aesthetic that works best for you.
Thank you, Sherri. Did any of the other panelists want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I think I kind of struggled with that a lot when I first got into business, and what I think the agents really need to do is we've got to you got to stop getting ready to get ready, right? So like at some point you really do just have to get out there and do it. It's not going to be perfect, and in consulting, which is what I did before I got in real estate, we always talk about working in like an agile process. And what that means is that we're going to launch this thing on Friday, regardless of how it is. And as people start interacting with this software or, with this platform or whatever, we're going to take that feedback and we're going to start implementing it and we're going to keep growing it. Agents need to have that kind of mentality. Like we can't spend a lot of time. It's very easy to work on the business and not in the business. But then the other thing is that that'll just help you in the long run when you get into these deals and this doesn't work. Okay, well, let's try this. You know what I'm saying? Just having that type of adaptability is really what we need in the business. But that's how they should approach it. You start today, you got your business cards. Okay, you don't got the website yet. In 3 weeks, when you close the deal, come back and get the website. Build one on top of the other instead of trying to spend so much time on the front end getting this brand down, because clients don't really care about that stuff. Clients care about you being able to solve their problem. When you had initially asked this question, I was going to say, just don't even focus on the brand and just pick up the phone and start calling people and trying to help them with what they need help with, because that's always going to stand out to a client more than, the brand is just how you get them in initially, right? If you have a strong enough brand. But once they start talking to you, if you're making a really good connection, that's going to stand out way more than the brand was going to stand out anyway.
That is great information and great advice. And I'm just speaking from my experience of the hesitation of everything, trying to make everything perfect, right? Because that's what we see when we jump into the business. We see all of these agents and their brands look so phenomenal and they're doing all this amazing business that you think you have to start off with everything in line. So I really appreciate that advice, Skyler. Especially coming from a younger agent in the industry. So, anybody else wanted to add to that? I have one question. I know we're going to keep it short and sweet so we can wrap up and give everybody back their day. Carl?
I'll keep it real super quick. One thing I tell people, some people have a lot of issues with anxiety. They're nervous about it. They don't want to be in front of the camera. They do whatever. So what I typically would tell people is make one video. Make one video for the month or one video for the week or whatever. Just do one thing. Explain who you are and how you can help a realtor, or if you're a coach, how you can help a realtor. If you're a realtor, how you can buy someone a house, how you can help someone sell the house. Make one video just to see how it works. Just get started. Don't think about, how beautiful it has to look. I tell people do one thing and post it. Determine what needs to change or what need to adjust to, and do another one the following week. You don't have to post every day. Make one video and get started and see what happens.
Thank you, Carl. Stephanie, you had a question.
Yes, I kind of want to piggyback on what was kind of said before. When we think about brand, everybody thinks about our colors, our logos. Really, we are our brand. We are a walking billboard of ourselves. So we can spend so much time on trying to figure out our colors and how we want to look. And people aren't going to remember that. Like Skyler said, they're going to remember how you made them feel, how you helped them. So in regards to posting to social media, I'm getting more into it, and I'm finding my raw footage does more, brings me more business or more likes, more attention, more conversation than a well thought out ChatGPT post, or spending 2 hours trying to figure out how to create a Canva post. So to get over that hump of just being nervous or being scared, people see us every day, because when we see ourselves on camera, it makes us nervous because we're like, oh, that's how I talk, that's how I look. But this is normal to everybody else. So us getting on camera is just as if they're having a conversation with us in public. And it's just a matter of getting over that fear, doing that first video, keeping it simple, because simplicity is the vibe that everybody has now. Nike has a check mark, McDonald's has an M. We don't have to overthink it. It's too much information out here. It'll overwhelm us. And it's just that first step of getting on camera and saying, hi, I'm Stephanie, I'm a realtor.
Thank you for that insight, Stephanie. I agree. We just got to get out there and do it. And when we show our authentic selves, that is what brings in our business. And I've seen that from several people who are on this call right now. I've watched you all, and just who you are shows in person and on social media, and it reflects in your business. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for the information. As we wrap up, I just want to touch on a few things. Realtor Real Estate School, which has brought you this lovely Midday Mastery, has some amazing tools available as well in courses that'll help you find your niche. And if you're in the process of discovering your niche, we have designations and certifications that are available to you to hone in on that and learn and double down on that education, because once you have that education, it builds the confidence for you to go out and share that information and be more confident in presenting yourself in social media. I know for me, I hesitate when I feel that I'm not as confident in providing that information. But if it's something that I'm really strong in, I'm on that camera immediately, or I'm sending creating Canva posts and things about something that I feel passionate about. So that really drills down to know your niche. So I highly encourage you to engage, go on chicagorealtor.com, go into those classes. Um, School also has skill building classes, and those skill building classes are self paced. And one of the classes is similar to what we're talking about, and it is called Unlocking the Power of Digital Marketing and Real Estate. So I highly encourage you all to go on there, get some information, and utilize it in your branding. Finally, to get into these classes, we were just talking about how to get started right on our branding and what it takes and how we're rushing to get these websites and the cost of things. There are scholarships available for you to get these classes. The designations and certifications have scholarships through the Carr Foundation. You can once again go to chicagorealtor.com, look up those designations and look up the scholarships and apply. There is money available for you to take those courses. There is no excuse. It is on a reimbursement model, but it is very beneficial. And we've had some members here, myself included, that have benefited from that scholarship. So take advantage. Don't miss out on the opportunity to hone your skills and find your niche and build your brand. I'm going to kick it back over to Chris or Madam Sherri.
Thank you very, very much, Lanzetta, and everyone. And I just want to, again, just circle back with just a couple closing thoughts that, today's conversation reminded us that branding isn't just about logos and listing. It's really about the relationship that we build. I mean, we know that the technology is going to change. We know we're going to have to adjust to it, but the relationships that we have, especially in real estate, those are absolutely paramount. So it becomes also about the stories that we tell and the trust that we earn over that time. And as we all leave here and go about our lives, I hope that you feel inspired to show up more fully and more authentically in your business. And your brand is already in the room. It's you. So thank you so much to our incredible panelists and to the Professional Development Advisory Group. And thank you for tuning in and being part of this conversation.